So Noe
Okay.
James, you ready?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, so welcome everyone. We just wanted to bring everyone together for once, because this whole project has been really spread out, and we wanted to celebrate all of you and thank you and just talk about each person's process. Yeah, so thank you for
Yeah.
being here. James, I don't know if you want to add anything.
Yeah, I think it's crazy that we were all done filming and this is the first time we've all gotten together. It's so nuts. Just not how we usually operate. So we wanted to kind of just bring everyone together to share our experiences with each other. And I know each group had a different and unique experience. So I'm really looking forward to hearing all your stories. So thanks for being
And
here.
I want to make sure that everybody knows everybody because a lot of you are affiliated with PNB, but some of you aren't. And so Nia, for folks who may not know you, it's their loss, but maybe you can just start by introducing yourself quickly.
Okay, cool. Hi, everybody. I do know quite a few of you. And for those of you who I don't know, I'm excited to see your faces even on this virtual platform. I'm Nia-Amina Minor, based here in Seattle, originally from Los Angeles. I dance with Spectrum Dance Theater, where also I work as a community engagement artist liaison. And I am collaborating with Amanda. I'm like pointing to you because you're at this box on my screen.
There on
down.
mine.
Yeah, so go ahead.
Before we lose Beth, that's Beth. She's walking with her family for Father's
In the wilderness.
Day. Before we lose you, do you want to say anything quickly?
It's nice to meet everybody. I'm not a PNB affiliate, but I grew up dancing with Lucien in Santa Cruz and moved to Seattle about 2.5 years ago. And I've been choreographing here and had a wonderful time. It was an honor to be a part of this process. Thank you, Noe and James.
Do you all know Sydney Purtle, who's on my right, but that's Sydney, who is Miles's sister and kind of the art director for the project that you were working on, right? And she's muted. You're muted.
I work really well with Miles as kind of more of like a conceptual choreography or like a visual editor. So he and I work together and with Leah on this project to create a piece. So yeah, but I'm an artist. I'm a visual artist. I was trained from a young age to do like figure portraits and drawings. So much like you all train from 9 to 8 at night or whatever dancing, I was doing the same thing but in the classical art world. So it's really cool to be able to work with my brother and with Leah to make some beautiful pieces with you guys. So thank you.
So there's Miles and Leah. You're on the same line as Sydney. I'm actually going row by row. And if you two would both unmute, you work together, creating both the movement and then performing it, right? You want to talk a little bit about that?
I'll let you go, Miles.
Leah, do you want to go first?
Oh.
Okay. This project was actually really cool because I don't know. I'm going to do a little digression about myself, but I've always done choreography where it's always been like one person at the front of the room, and that's just their vision, and that's pretty much what it is. And they choose to incorporate the dancers or not. And I'm really trying to move away from that and move towards working with other artists and having everybody have equal say. So that's my sister, that's Leah, that was also our musician, Jason Webley, and just trying to just have everyone actually collaborate properly. So it's been, this one of them is a particularly fun project because they're all my favorite people to work with, so.
Aww.
When you talk about collaborating, Leah, was it a true partnership? Did you feel that way about it?
Yeah, I think so. It worked out. I get along with Miles really well. So it was easy to, I know, right? It was easy to have that collaboration truly be a collaboration.
Amanda, you and Nia collaborated on this piece as well. I mean, it wasn't, you were making it for yourselves, but your process, it's hard. There's so many of you and there's so many great stories, but your process was really one of kind of process, right?
Yes.
The process that resulted in what we'll see. You want to talk a little bit about how that worked?
Yeah, so I mean, already going into it, as like Nia and I don't live in the same place, so we had to really figure out like how we were gonna you know, choreograph a piece together. And similar to Miles and Leah and Sydney, I really wanted to step out of that kind of just telling the dancer what to do and really collaborate with you know, Nia, because I think she has like a lot of great ideas. So we first just started talking about like what we were feeling during this time and what themes were coming into our mind before we even started the piece. And we just kept kind of like moving through that way and giving each other prompts and doing like movement studies and improvisational studies. And then from there, creating phrases. And then now we just finished filming this past week with Henry. And now we're gonna get to look at all the clips and then put them in any order that we wanna do. So that's kind of where the real choreography comes into, is kind of just like placing the clips to like make a narrative, which will be fun and challenging, I think.
I just realized, does everybody know Stefan, who's sitting next to Lucien there? Wave, Stefan. And Stefan, you had the best story. All the dancers among you were talking about like the trauma of being home and stuck, except Stefan, who was like, this is so warm and fuzzy. So do you want to say a little about yourself for people who might not know what you do now and what you did 3 years ago?
What I used to do. So I used to be a dancer. No, I was working with Monaco, and most of my career was based in Europe. I was in the Hamburg Ballet for 3 years, and then in Ballet Monte Carlo for 13. I was principal dancer there, and I retired, 2-3 years ago, to go into food. And so now I am a chef, and at a restaurant here in Seattle, actually. What was really nice for me was that actually during this process, I was actually able to go back to something that was really comforting and familiar during like the craziness of COVID, when sort of like everything was just unknown. It turned out that ballet was this thing that I could return to and feel comfortable in. And it was like a language I could speak. And so it ended up becoming this really like warm and cozy thing that I could just kind of like slip on during this process from time to time, and kind of made me feel like good and kind of eased the COVID anxieties a little bit.
Does everybody know Penny, who is in the box next to Lucien and Stefan on my computer? Penny, do you want to say some words about who you are if people don't know you? Because they should.
Sure, yeah, and a couple of you I haven't met personally, I think. Amanda and Stefan and Nia and Beth and Leia, but you might know my husband Pablo, who's whipped you into shape for Ceruto and before we fell off the cliff of COVID-19. But anyway, I'm Penny. I live in Salt Lake City with my husband, and I've locked them in the backyard so they don't disturb us. But I'll show them later. I got to work with Elle and Dill, which was awesome. I worked with them last summer in the flesh, and now we got to do it virtually. And I would say it was a collaboration, but I'm still a bossy pants. I mean, I gave them a lot of tasks, and I had them record themselves. I asked them 3 questions about what was happening, and I mix a lot of stuff now for my sound environment, if you will. So I used their voices and made a little soundtrack so that we got another dimension to them, since it would be lacking in the screen version of dance. So I thought that would deepen the experience. And yeah, we just made it in their tiny little living room, which was awesome. And we just imagined what it would be like in a larger space. Congratulations on your condo, by the way. Yay! And Siggy made it into the piece too. And yeah, it was just fun. Those two they're just so sweet. And they also brought hope into what felt like a blah time to be existing. So I appreciate that, y'all. Listening to your voices as I edited it, and just, you know, felt like a hug through the process.
So Alan and Dylan, I actually, I only got to watch 3 of the groups dance. I got to watch you in that tiny little living room, rehearsing with the dog and a rolled up rug and a couch and all the other things. And we just heard Penny say she's a bossy pants or a bossy boots. I forget which you are. Bossy boot, a bossy pant if you want. Did it feel that way to you, or did you feel like, I mean, there's a lot of you two in the piece, right? Your personal selves.
I think we had freedom with, you know, our dialogue, and like she said, when we were doing, oh, it says our internet's unstable. Are we good?
Yeah.
I see you.
Okay. And we kind of knew what was happening when we had the questions. That was the first little bit. It's like, okay, this is our personal take into what's going on here. But when it comes to Penny being bossy, I mean, I don't know. I like the direction, so I don't mind it at all. And it was like Steph was saying earlier, it felt more normal to have direction, because I think this whole time is a little directionless. And so to have somebody kind of telling us, actually, I want your arm to come down this way rather than this, it was like, oh, yeah, this feels normal to me. So, what about you?
Yeah, no, it was wonderful working with Penny. It did feel collaborative in the sense that she was really, really, I'm forgetting the word, but just like worked with what we had. So like we would do something, she would be like, yes, do that, and then do this. And so it was really organic, and she didn't try to force what is that saying, a peg into a square hole. Like if it wasn't happening, it wasn't happening. And then if it was, like, great. And she let us really find our way in it. And so it was really, really nice. And since we did have that relationship, I think from last summer, it just was so organic, and nothing felt off or weird about it at all.
Yeah, I felt like things happened really easily. Like I feel like it was actually, I was worried about learning choreography over Zoom, but she was very articulate in what she wanted. So it made it easier to kind of make those connections.
And I found that I don't show anything when I'm Zooming. Like I just sit down.
You show this.
Yeah, you show this. So in a way, it comes out of their bodies even more, which is what I try to do in the studio too. Just get out of the way, because I'm sick of watching myself try to do anything these days. But they're so beautiful. You know, I can just say something like such and such, and then they do what they want, and yes, let's do that.
So Bruno, does everybody know Bruno, the last person last choreographer that I'm
Yeah, I know everyone except Nia, that I only communicated by email, and
Nia,
Sydney. Everyone else knows me pretty well, yeah.
Well, so I was thinking, as Penny, Alan, Dylan were talking about their process of working, you, James, and Noe, it was a little bit different because you and Noe were in the same building, but the two dancers were in different places. So it's more like Amanda and Nia trying to collaborate in different places. And you had some particular issues as well in terms of...
Yeah, it was a bit of a hybrid situation, I guess. I didn't really think about it until it actually started happening, but it created some challenges having actually Noe with me and having James the other, because there were two-way streets, right? But they were not aligned all the time by sound or by image. So and then I ended up making a piece that is kind of musical and very, not count driven, but rhythm driven, you know. So always having the delay on James, and it created some challenges, but it was, we actually tried to be all in different places since we have, you know, a house big enough. We did try a few rehearsals where we moved. I stayed up and Noe stayed down, and James was in West Seattle. And so like this, everyone was kind of separated by Zoom, and that actually kind of worked quite well, but it was fun.
Nia and Amanda, because you were co-creating and you're in different places. I know that a lot of your, at least what you told me, maybe it all changed, but at the time that we did the interview, you were talking about improvisational approach. You two started with a theme, with a very specific subject that you wanted to address. So I wanted you to quickly just talk a little bit about that, and then that process of being in two different places, collaborating and rehearsing, and then coming together finally to have Henry film it.
It was a really interesting thing. We were looking at, you know, these ideas around intimacy and spatial justice and these kind of more kind of private places and these public places, and thinking about where we live and how different they are, but connected with these kind of odd histories that Seattle has that are present in the space, and kind of what our bodies carry and also what the space is carrying. Yeah, and so I often work in an improvisational way. And so Amanda was interested in kind of giving me that space and negotiating that. And so we would give each other prompts and kind of reflect, move and reflect, move and reflect. And each time we went through this movement process, the things would be kind of like compounded, all of the reflections, and they would somehow be present in the movement. So Amanda would do kind of like Penny, she, be right here watching me negotiate a prompt with my body in this kind of space here, which is like very small, kind of like, and then, give me some reflections about that. And then I talk about what I was thinking or what I was experiencing while moving. I think the most interesting thing though, was when we came together, I think because of all that time that we spent in this kind of like very intimate space creating together, when we came together, which is like, oh yeah, like this is what it is, it was already in the body in such a way that when we were in the space together, we could carry that forward. And also I think, with everything that kind of has been going on over the last 2 or 3 weeks, Amanda and I had to kind of like postpone the creative process and reapproach it, which was really interesting. And I think a lot of us as dancers are kind of used to that, having a creative process that's a little bit longer where you kind of dive back into it. It's not so often that we're always doing things in like these short 2-week, 3-week things. Usually we have some time to get into it. And so that was really nice, actually. I mean, the interruption, the much needed interruption on the kind of societal level allowed us a space to have even more time to reflect on what it was, what we thought it was at the beginning of the pandemic. It had changed completely by the time we got here. And I think it was nice to have that space and also not have to deal with the pressure of kind of producing right away. And I think James and Noe for that space too, So that was really interesting. And then when we got together, it was like,
yeah, it was super fun.
It was fun. It was really fun. It was really nice to move in space.
Apartment, yes, probably.
Not being inside, really moving the body fully and taking up space. It was also a sensation I hadn't had in a long time. So I think there was a lot of love that, was there. We were just excited. It was like bubbling,
I did actually get to watch Beth rehearsing with Stefan and Lucien with some overhead phone camera work, but I'm wondering did the three of you feel like a collaborative process? Beth had an idea. How did the three of you work on the piece that you ultimately recorded?
Yeah, so this was a cool chance for Beth, for me at least, to get to work with Beth, because we, as she said, we grew up together. So that was fun to see each other as adults now and work. It was a bit collaborative. Beth definitely has like an eye, what she's looking for. So she gave some phrases and then had us do some improvisations off of those phrases. And Stefan and I are both very different dancers. So he would take it in one direction and I would take it in another. And then as Beth was building it, she took like some of what Stefan was doing and okay, now he's in control of this phrase. And then it would be my phrase.
And then she would like Bethify everything, which was great. So like we'd be doing, and she's like, "Yeah, but I want it more animal, more weird, more this." And so it definitely was like a nice open conversation, both like physically and vocally, kind of. So yeah, it was fun. It was fun to be fun to be in that kind of a process.
You want to add anything to that, Beth?
I don't know if you can hear me. Sorry, we're passing people. Yeah, I mean, I have like a very like specific motivation often while choreographing, but I take so much inspiration from the dancers that, and especially when working with like dancers like Lucienne and Steph, where they're incredibly inspiring and interesting artistically. So it's kind of like, they say Bethify, but also like pulling out like little isms that I see might be there that could be bigger and broader, and playing with that and kind of being the outside eye that can help paint this picture that they're really the center of and the inspiration of. So it felt very collaborative to me. Yeah.
Henry, you've got 5 completely different things that you're working on, completely different ways of working. Can you talk a little bit about this process for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head that they're 5 like completely different projects, which is, that was, to me, it was something I was thinking about going into it. And I've just been so happy as we've been filming everything to realize that naturally they all look and feel different, which was kind of, you know, going into this as the camera operator, it's like, you know, I'm always thinking about what my style is and bringing that to the table, and then trying to balance kind of the shifting line between what different choreographers are thinking versus what I'm thinking, and then in some instances where that balance is. Yeah, so I mean, I've been, you know, editing Up a Storm in this last week and just seeing how organically things are different. And I mean, hopefully my goal is, if, you know, watching all 5 of them, you wouldn't know that one person, you know, filmed all of them. But having them so different is very helpful for me, especially mentally, as I'm, you know, editing everything, and being able to fully just switch tracks and edit on another project. They're so different that I'm not really worried about one of them taking up too much time in my mind while I'm trying to work on another one, because they're so different. It's just like, I'll switch tracks and I'll edit this one, and then I can switch tracks and edit that one. And it helps to keep everything moving along, I guess.
How closely are you working with each choreographer to do that editing?
It's been variations. So some of them are much more connected with the choreographers, and some of them are much more like, we had a plan going forward and we got all the shots, and then I'll just take it away and edit it and then send back a rough cut, and then we'll go with revisions and revisions. And we're about to get into that process for real in the next couple of days. But I mean, yeah, it's right now, it's kind of been a sliding scale. Like I was saying, is they're so different. So it's, you know, the differences don't stop when it comes to editing. And like some of the choreographers, I haven't, you know, even uploaded all the footage yet, because, you know, we're still just working through piece by piece. Yeah, so it's, I mean, it's a medley of different approaches, which is definitely keeping it fresh and engaging for me.
Well, so I'm curious, my favorite of these that I can't imagine how you're working together is the sea turtles. So there's 3 sea turtles there. And I know this was on a sort of a floating dock that didn't sound very big and moved. So I'm a little bit curious, all sea turtles, all 3 of you turtles, sea turtles and Tarada, to talk a little bit about that kind of process. You were almost as limited as being in a condo.
Yeah, which, I mean, that actually helps me, is having those limitations, because it's always, especially at the level that we're at and kind of within the scope that we're thinking of, it helps to have those restraints, and it helps to have those, like, that set piece. So at first, when I got to the location, I was definitely overwhelmed, because I was thinking through like, oh, there's so many different ways to shoot this and to show it off. But then at the end of the day, the dancers are on the dock, and that's what we needed to show. And so having that kind of setup, that I couldn't do anything about the dock, I couldn't do anything about the water, and I couldn't do anything about the light. And so that really just simplifies it for me, and thinking my job is, it gets much more simple about just picking the right angles. And so I mean, we shot, I think we shot the most days on that one. We shot three days, all like starting before or earlier 5 a.m. So it was, I mean, and that was the thing, because that one I was like, okay, we got to make sure that, you know, we're keeping our days consistent here, just with the amount of coverage that we're getting. And so that was really fantastic to shoot all those days, because, you know, the first day we were figuring things out and working through it, and then we just got more and more into a rhythm.
So Miles, Leah, and Sydney, had you thought about that a whole lot in advance as you were creating the piece that you wanted to create, or did it come together once Henry was there?
It's a good question. I just have to do a just huge thank you to Henry, because he really did wake up at 3:30 in the morning multiple days to come shoot us dance in the rain. Oh my God. Thank you so much. I'm going to let Sid speak a little bit about the plan, but I will say that having Henry there, and being able to see what he was shooting and like what the audience is going to see was very, very, very helpful. And having those 3 days actually see what we had already done and then actually redo some of it, so it looked a lot better and nicer, and we could accommodate what Henry was doing, and Henry could accommodate what we were doing. And that was an awesome, awesome process.
I think Miles passed it off to me. We actually, because there's 3 of us, we actually chose to do most of our rehearsals outside to begin with. And the only way that Miles and Leah could see the choreography they were making was to be able to record it on my camera. So a lot of time was spent looking at the camera angles through an artistic point of view, because it's the only way that they were able to tweak the choreography the way that they wanted it to. But working with Henry was it was super cool, because you know, I'm a still photographer, I don't shoot video, and watching the way Henry was manipulating the camera, and like it was amazing. It was amazing to watch. But I think in basic terms, so far as the doc and the camera angles go, it was something we had thought about a lot. We had been out at the doc practicing pretty much every day, every other day. So it was one of those kind of restrictive qualities to try to make the most out of, you know, from the very beginning, which was pretty exciting for us too.
I have to jump up to Noe, James, and Bruno, because you 3, Miles, Leah, and Sydney, and 4, Henry had 4 days. Noe, James, and Bruno, I think shot 9 hours in one pouring rainy day, right? You want to talk a little bit about Noe and James?
Yeah,
only one of you was in the rain though, right?
Yeah, that would be me. Bruno was out there quite a bit too, and of course Henry. But yeah, we used M-Bar, the rooftop deck down in South Lake Union, and that morning there was lightning and thunder and quite a bit of rain, and luckily it's sort of the lightning and the thunder went away by the time we started filming we got there around 9 o'clock. But we had the one day to film in that space, because you know, I think M-Bar was scheduled to open the following Monday. I'm not sure if they actually did or not, but we wanted to get in while they were still closed, so that we didn't have to come back when they were open and move a bunch of furniture. So it was just a little cleaner if we had just that one you know, 8-9 hour chunk. And you know, we were super impressed with Henry. He was so organized, and we just went through the whole thing, got everything done, and I think we got done even a little earlier than scheduled. So thanks, Henry, for being on top of that.
I mean, Noe and James, you had other responsibilities because you are managing a whole project in addition to one dance. So I'm just sort of curious from your perspective, like, could you just focus on that? Was that hard? Did you feel tons of pressure?
I still like being a dancer, but for Seattle Dance Collective, I prefer to be on the other side of it. I still, you know, I love working with James. I love working with Bruno. So I felt like this was also a great opportunity to, you know, to create something nice together. But my head, a lot of the times, you know, when we weren't working or rehearsing, my head was elsewhere, and it continues to be elsewhere on the other dancers, on the other artists. You know, because I want to take care of everyone and everything and be 100% everywhere, but that's hard. But yeah, it was still nice. And what helped about our situation is that it was extremely organized. All of the shots, we knew exactly, even down to like the nitty gritty of the counts, you know, and that helped the process in and of itself, you know, the couple weeks that we had of rehearsal, and then creating the shots, and even the day of the shoot, very organized from 9 until 5 until we left. And that just made everything roll and go a lot more smoothly. I think if we hadn't been organized, it would have been a lot more stressful.
It just occurs to me that while everyone's talking, Penny, you're the one choreographer who couldn't be at the actual shoot because you're not here. So were you there via Zoom? How did that work? How did you do that?
How did I do that? Yeah, that's happening a lot to me these days. Did you FaceTime me, I think, Noe, while we were doing it? But they had it handled. I mean, I'd made a mock video of rehearsal footage outside. You know, I took a bunch of still pictures of my shoes on the welcome mat to show the stop motion. I'm a bossy pants. I'm pretty specific. So there wasn't a whole lot of room for, you know, things to go too awry, I don't think. I don't know. How do y'all feel? Was I too much? Sorry.
No, I mean, I can kind of speak to that too, because Penny wasn't there on the day, which, you know, for me meant we had to prepare all of the questions I might have beforehand. So we prepared a shot list, like pretty detailed, which we didn't really do for any of the other dances, but that was important so that, you know, as all you choreographers can attest, you know, there are times when we're filming where I'll ask you, is this frame okay? Do you want this tighter in here, tighter out here? And that was the luxury we didn't have when we were filming with Elle and Dylan. So that was, for me, I was like trying to get as prepared early on. And then we filmed up a few little pickup things like a little bit after. So I sent a rough cut to Penny and she said, how about this, how about this, how about this? And then I was able to get some of those when we were filming kind of later that week with Elle and Dylan. But I mean, yeah, that was like, you know, it was one of those things in the pre-production where having that structure, having that order, and for me, it was, you know, fantastic to have Penny say, this is exactly what I want, and I want it like this. Because then it's like, oh, okay, that's what you got to do. And that's amazing when the director isn't on set with you.
So I'm just thinking about that very organized by necessity style. I don't think it's a bossy pants thing. To at least how I'm thinking, Amanda and Nia, that yours is more an organic kind of process, and what we'll see, meaning audience, I'll be the audience person, is going to be you looking at what you actually got out in the field and then creating something out of that. Am I right?
Yeah, I think that we just came up with all of these different phrases and movements, and then we also improv'd in multiple different locations.
Wow.
And so we just have a lot of footage to choose from. And then we also, on top of all of that, we interviewed 7 women that were close to us, and we're going to kind of use some of their voices and hopefully ours. We'll see how that'll work and kind of make a sound score with a song that Nia's friend made. So yeah, it's really just picking and choosing now, but I wanted to make sure that it was very organic, especially because of the what the piece is kind of about and what it entails. I wanted to make sure that, you know, the way Nia moved in response to something was very much her. I didn't want to try and manipulate it or say like, do it this way or have your finger that way. It just didn't feel right to me in this specific type of piece.
We don't have tons of time left, but I'm really curious, and I'm going to start with Lucian and Stefan to talk about working at this time in history where we have dual pandemics. We've got a lot of change in the air, and hopefully more than the air. Hopefully it will be real change. What is it like to be artists at this time, to be working on through an art form that you love and creating in almost July of 2020?
I just have to say, like, thank you to Noe and James for making this all happen, because since everything shut down, we didn't have a way of expressing our voices, our creativity, and this was an opportunity to do something and create inside of and out of this period. This project is all born out of what we're all going through. So it felt really nice to do something so relevant, and yeah, something to help process like the emotions that I think we all go through. We're all in this moment together, and I think that makes us also very accessible to the audience, that this is an expression of how we've processed this time. So when the audience watches it, they can relate to what we've been doing, because they've been going through, if not the same, something very similar.
Leah, I'm going to throw that same question to you.
I think because everything has changed every single day, from knowing that we were going to be a part of this project, to thinking about what we were going to do, to where it was going to be, to filming day, everything's changed. So at any given point, there was something else that was going through our heads. I mean, that's probably normal, but to try to pinpoint it to one specific thing, or what this piece, how it stands with everything going on right now, is just, there's too much to even try to begin to try to understand a place for it or where it is. So I think hopefully it is something different for everyone to watch. And I think that's okay. So I don't know, Miles, do you have a different thought?
No.
Or Sid?
Dylan and Al, do you have any thoughts about that?
I think James and Noe came in at a really nice time and gave us this safe space that we kind of needed, or this place to create when, you know, we were told that we were non-essential. And so you kind of almost take it on for a little while, and then to kind of get back into it and see the importance that art shows and the voice that it has and what it can hopefully relate to everyone who watches, is that we're still together even though we're more isolated than we once were, and that our voices can be united in a way, I don't know, through this art form that we're comfortable with. Of course, there's going to be different art forms, you know, that can express the same things, but it was really, I'll cherish this memory because it was something that I know I really needed it, so.
Yeah, I feel like I can only really speak for myself, but art obviously has like helped me cope with everything, and this opportunity just to collaborate and to talk to other people, and has just helped me through it. So I can imagine it's going to help other people too.
Yeah, and to see all of you guys too. You know, we were all doing this together, but separate as well. And, you know, it never felt this big until this moment, you know, like seeing everybody here and talking about their experiences, and also knowing our own and being able to share that on this platform too. I can't wait to see it. It's all been like such like a hidden treasure. Can't wait.
Nia, you said something a while ago that that's just still flashing through my mind, that you started this and then the world changed in the process of you and Amanda working. You were already working on something that was very much about who you are and your place in the world. And the world has changed since you started, but you said something specifically about these 2 to 3 weeks of distance and that kind of time to think. And I wonder if you would reflect a little bit on this process for you, given the time that we're in right now, and those 2 weeks, 3 weeks, almost 4 weeks at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I have to say again, I don't know how many times said it to knowing James specifically, but to be a part of a creative process where the container, the structure of the process is flexible and responsive to the outside world as an artist has been really monumental. I mean, especially because it provides an example of like how you can make work in the future and still be in relationship with what's going on, as opposed to this kind of like business as usual, let's plow through, you know, kind of thing that a lot of us who are in the arts world and work in specific industries have to do as a way of surviving, as a way of, you know, maintaining some sort of sense of productivity. So to be a part of a process where Amanda and I could, you know, do just that, process a lot of the things and be involved in this collaborative relationship, and then be given the space to reflect and to breathe amidst something that is kind of changing our notions even more about the world around us, was just great, because it just shows that it can be done, you know? I mean, we can come out of this and have something that we're proud of, be involved in a creative process that we're truly proud of, be involved collaboratively with all these artists, and still take care of ourselves and still kind of maintain what's going on and be honest, you know, about I'm showing up, it's a pandemic, I'm showing up, there's this societal interruption, it's compounded. How am I supposed to act as if this is normal and that be okay? You know, this is not normal. I understand where you are, and we're able to provide this space for you so that you can do what you do to truly support artists, right? And what does that mean, and what does that look like today? So, I mean, I just have to say that I was so thankful for that. It's such a small thing. I mean, it doesn't seem that, right? Just postponing a couple of weeks, but just doing that is like, what? We can postpone a deadline? We can postpone a show? Who knew? It's never, you know, it's rare. And then to also be involved in a process with Amanda where our relationship can grow as friends as well as creative collaborators was just really special. So that's kind of where I am right now.
We're just about out of time, but I want to throw this back to James and Noe, because when you decided that you were going to do this pivot months ago now, the world has certainly changed, and you've had to flow and change as well, moving deadlines. And I'm wondering, for the two of you and for Seattle Dance Collective, if you would just sort of share last thoughts on this project and how it might influence your future as artists and as artistic directors.
Gosh, so much to say about this, right?
Yeah.
But you know, going back to Nia's point, you know, artists are constantly inventing and reinventing themselves. And through this process, you know, they have developed this great skill of creativity. And Noe and I knew that the most important thing we could do was provide our artists an opportunity to continue their work. And I keep going back to this quote that was swimming around in my head that had in the early stages of COVID, in that in a catastrophe, there's an opportunity for transformation. And when you have artists that are incredibly creative and want to be active and work, we just, our job was just to find and like to build a framework so that artists could be allowed to do what they do best. And so that's really was the genesis of the project. And then the health and safety for everyone was paramount and our #1 priority. And then every decision after that hark back to that one main point. And we just started building layers upon that, and this project slowly developed.
Yeah, initially I kind of felt like, just as an artist myself, I felt like my wings had been clipped, you know, and then suddenly I was caged in this space. And I think you know, we all have a voice, and we need to be able to use that voice. And even still, after our project's over, I'm working on a little side project by myself because I need this outlet to create and to be able to communicate, because this is how we communicate with the world, is through dance and this art form. And I was just grateful that we had artists that wanted to go on this journey with us. And then when we opened up the box or built this box, we realized how much people needed it. And we were just grateful to be able to provide that for everyone and let them fly.
Yeah, I think we're both really impressed with this group and so proud of the work that has been created. You know, we really have taken a step back from our normal roles in a normal world. Like we basically provided everyone an opportunity to work, and then they did the work. You know, we kind of were stepping back and trying to manage things, but we weren't so involved. And so that's why this conversation has been so interesting for me, because we get to hear for the first time, really, how it's been going for you and some of the challenges and some of the fun parts. And, you know, it was really apparent at the filmings that I attended that this was special. There was kind of this buzz that was there, and you know, people just expressing how wonderful it was to be able to move their bodies. And just you know, it feels good for me to be able to provide that opportunity for an artist to do what they do, because with this you know, world of COVID that we're living in, to suddenly not be able to be active is it's miserable. So just really proud of how everyone just took the initiative and just went for it. So really proud of you guys for that.
Can you guys share the sort of logistical details of how and where this will all appear?
This will go for 5 weeks. It'll run for 5 weeks, and each choreographer or each group will have their kind of week. And it starts on July 2nd with Penny, with Home, and Ellen Dill. And then Sea Turtles, then it's
Beth, yeah.
Beth, yeah. Then it's Beth, and Lucienne and Steph, Amanda, and then our group with Bruno. Yeah, and then the 6th week, it's not advertised, but the 6th week we will show all the pieces in succession, along with this wonderful gathering that we're having here.
Also, the second part of that is, well, not only the making of videos that Bruno has been editing with all the recordings that we've been taking, but also the class series that we've put together to for people as well. And I'm really excited about the class series as well, because we're not only just offering dance classes, but Lucienne's teaching a cooking class and Sydney's teaching a drawing sketch class. So I think we'll be able to draw a pretty wide audience, and I know I'll be attending a lot of those classes.
Yeah, I should also mention that these will be on Facebook and our website through our Vimeo page. But yeah, every Thursday, 6 p.m.
Well, I want to thank you for inviting me to be part of it. It's been a lot of fun for me, and a sort of bright spot in what's not always the easy time to be doing the job that I'm doing right now. So that's something else. So I'll hand it back to all of you. Thanks for all your artistry. I look forward to seeing these pieces, and someday seeing you all like for real and not just on Zoom.
Love you guys. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yes, happy Father's Day.
It's been awesome. Bye.
Thank you guys.
Bye, guys.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.